Hello and welcome to the show, Ask Adam Live. Ask is the acronym for Always Seek Knowledge. Adam is my name, and live is always the show. In this week's episode, we're going to discuss overcoming limiting beliefs. This is part of our mindset mastery, and welcome to the show. We're going to adjust the acronym this episode to align skills and knowledge. Part of that is a little bit of what we'll learn when overcoming our limiting beliefs. Now, let's get on with the show. Welcome to the Ask Adam Live studio, and let's start talking. Well, I guess let me share a little bit about myself, and I'm not sure if that's been done in other episodes, but let's do it today, huh? Well, I actually started out life on the water, grew up in South Florida, and was always around boats, sailing, and motor yachts. So I learned many of the skills of life on the water. I also then uh, relocated and worked on some, I guess, general office skills, I guess, kind of the supply chain world, and then found myself operating a tractor trailer for 7 years, several years, and then kind of segued to making another left turn as a real estate broker in multiple states here in the US. Then I segued from that into an insurance agent selling multiple facets of life insurance and protective insurance tools, and then working my way into the coach and life strategist field. So I come to you with a little bit of knowledge to say I've started over several times and have made several left turns in my career of just kind of, in essence, what would be starting from zero and completely learning a new skill. Although I found, and I can share with you, which would be a good part of this episode, is that with each one of those pivots, which seems sometimes to be difficult, you'll actually find at the end of each one of those turns and tips and whatever you want to look at it as, is it's actually all kind of woven together that makes the unique you and what you ultimately become, which is the best you. And who doesn't want to be the best you? Come on now. So, that being said, let's look at some of our limiting beliefs and let's understand a little bit why they matter. You know, a limiting belief can actually be kind of the root of self sabotage. It can manifest behaviors like procrastination, imposter syndrome, um, just making you feel like you can't do it. Again, relating to the toxic 10 I speak of all the time. Can also restrict potential. When you're feeling this way and thinking this way, it kind of puts a limit on your aspirations. And this, quite frankly, if you're living and working in this mindset, you can have all the enthusiasm in the world, but it's actually going to create missed opportunities and sort of start shedding more light on unrealized talents. Not to mention the emotional toll of really just that consistent negative talk that you're kind of telling yourself. This is going to contribute to stress as well as just erode your confidence over time. Again, everything I speak about comes from some level, and that's why I speak about it, because I know if I've gone through it with all of my twists and turns in my life, that I know others have gone through it just with one of those events, right? Just with changing a job, adjusting a career, going from maybe part time to full time, just, and completely doing something different and not being comfortable with it. So let's identify some of those limiting beliefs. Reflect on the triggers that we recognize, the moments where we will tell ourselves, or maybe the emotional feeling that we're stuck. We're not really stuck. It's almost, how can I share with you that it's almost like your mind and your body, because you know what you want to do, probably getting ahead of myself there, but you know what you want to do. And so you're very anxious and eager to do it. And you're very excited. And it just, it's got the energy flowing and you just want to do it and you want to kind of get it done in a couple of days or a couple of hours and then just be an expert and jump into it. And that can sometimes be tough to transition through, right? So that being said, when you feel stuck, that is actually kind of yourself telling you to push forward. It's actually yourself arguing against your own procrastination to get you to do something because you're feeling stuck. It's quite interesting that this happens, interesting phenomenon as a matter of fact, but that we find it more comfortable to sit in that chair of being stuck and getting cozy with a pillow than to sit in that chair and say, hey, I want to get up and I want to go do something. I want to go be proactive. So, what stories are you telling yourself about why you can't succeed as you sit in this comfortable chair called being stuck? Some of the common themes typically might include, that you're not smart enough or that you don't have time, or maybe you've not succeeded. I don't like the word failure, but you've not succeeded or and learned from something else, and that sort of has some residual effects regarding how your mindset is towards the next step. And you're feeling a little kind of overwhelmed, like because that other thing didn't quite work out, this next thing might not either. We can tell ourselves that, but again, and that was a learning lesson that we experienced. That was an episode in our life where we didn't succeed, but we learned something. And so we want to focus on what it is that we learned and then add that to the energy. Make that the energy that gets you out of the recliner called I'm stuck and I'm just anxious and I'm unmotivated and I don't feel driven. Again, consider those lessons and look back a little bit on some of the experiences that you've had. Not necessarily the negative, but what did it teach you? And then you add those up. I can tell you from firsthand experience that is going to be a little bit of motivation, or at least some of the created uncomfortableness that you're going to experience, which is going to get you out of that chair called stuck, right? So don't, yeah, don't harbor so much on the past. Take that learned lesson and move forward. This kind of goes into sort of rewriting your history. Take your lessons and kind of rewrite your history in your mind as you say, hey, I didn't succeed at something. Oh, but I learned this. And create that trigger where you're going into that direction. And that will become a habit where instead of ruminating in that negative thought, you're going to move forward into that positive thought almost automatically. But it takes a minute to get that started, as we're saying, just changing your limiting beliefs, maybe even changing a position, discovering that you want to do something else that you love or that you found a passion for. Again, just put your mind to it and keep thinking about that, just like you want to keep thinking about those positive learned lessons that you have in your mind. In your, it's all there. You just need to access it. And part of that access is continuously going back with that positive mindset of what can I do better? What did I learn in the past? How can I move forward? What's some of the strategic things I can do different that are going to create this as a different, you're still kind of on the same path, but honestly, you're going to see things different. I'll give you a great example. If you're walking through the park, maybe it's a scenic park, a historical park, a a location that's just beauty is everywhere. And if you're kind of looking down at the sidewalk and maybe glancing at the beauty once in a while and going, yeah, it's kind of nice, look at the architecture, and then you're back looking at the sidewalk in your shoes, you're honestly not appreciating what is around you and in front of you. And it's not going to be a very, well, pleasurable walk. Yet, if you keep your head up, keep that chin level, and you look out, and see your 180-degree view of what is around you, and you absorb that and you marvel at the architecture and the flowers and the flower beds and the arrangements and just all of the beautiful attributes that are in front of you, it certainly changes your mindset, does it not? This is so much like life, where just keep your head up. And when you have that negative thought that wants to draw you down, bring yourself back up, get level with the horizon, and remember, look out to the future. You're in the now, and the now has its own place, but you are moving forward and want to go to the future. That's quite frankly where you need to look. And I think by looking that way and changing your mindset, you're going to see some tremendous things happen. See, there's sort of fact and fiction in our mind as far as the thoughts that we have. And we need to weed through that. And we need to ensure that we're continuously reminding ourselves of the facts, that we uh, are knowledgeable, that we can learn things, that we have, our hands and our feet, and we can walk and we can touch things and we can do all of these things. That's capability right there in itself. So it's not that you're incapable, you just need to start learning the process by which things are done. So don't get overwhelmed when you just need to learn the one step at a time. It's no different than walking. When we were small, we didn't know how to walk, but we got up, we took a couple steps, we fell down, we figured out that didn't work, get back up, take a couple more steps. Before you know it, 3 to 5 steps turned into 10 to 20 steps. And before you know it, mom's chasing you down the street, trying to catch up with you because you're unstoppable. This is, it's just like life. Hopefully, this helps you be unstoppable. Some examples here would be just seek the assistance of, you know, people that have gotten over these obstacles or have succeeded, right? Because everybody has doubted themselves. So when you see something, if you see someone who is successful, ask them and say, "Hey, what's the thing that kind of what gets you out of bed? What keeps your passion?" And they're more than happy to tell you because it's always there. It's top of mind for them. Is what keeps their clock ticking. It's what keeps them going when things get difficult in their business, when things are difficult in life. They know. And in fact, they will share it with you, quite frankly, because that's the one question that most people don't ask. It's like, oh, what are you going to buy next? Or who are you going to meet next? Or what are you going to do? Those are the most common questions for people who are successful. Or how are you going to make your next billion? But honestly, if you go up to any one of those individuals and go, hey, what kind of keeps you going? They're going to be absolutely honest. And that is probably the one question you won't get brushed off. So when you see someone succeeding, ask them. And quite frankly, you'll get a humbled response from almost anyone you ask. Almost anyone. I find that encouraging, is just to understand that they're like me. They're successful, they've adapted and they've grown and they're a little further ahead on their journey, but nonetheless, they're just like me. So that being said, seek out some individuals that you see and find to be a mentor like individual and understand a little bit what gets them going. And you'll find that their simplicity can also be adapted to your simplicity, right? So instead of always thinking that you fail at things, every new experience is really that chance to grow. So instead of telling yourself you're not good enough or you're not capable of learning or improving, flip that script, change it. And again, immediately, hey, I'm not good enough. Don't say that. Or you're not capable of learning and getting better. Say, no, I am capable of learning and getting better. Pat yourself on the back, smile, and say, I'm magnificent, because you are. And the more you tell yourself that, the more you believe that you are. And quite frankly, the easier the steps of success are going to happen for you. You know, I found that just spending a few minutes each day just picturing myself being in that position has made all the difference in the world. In fact, every day I see myself in three different scenarios. And not that I'm trying to confuse myself, but I think of where I want my business to be. And then I get there. And I think of where relationships that I have want to be, and I get there. And I think of the fun places that I would like to travel, and I get there. So spend each day sitting in peace. By the way, put your phone down. uh, I recommend calming music or no music. Nothing with lyrics, but just some ambient music to maybe fill the room if you find yourself with a busy mind and quietness just drives you crazy. Some ambient music is nice. Just sit there, eyes closed, hands on your lap, open palms preferred. Don't have anything cross your feet or your fingers, and just sit there and ruminate for a moment and picture yourself where you want to be, what you are doing, what your future you wants to be doing. Feel what it feels like, the emotions you want to feel, the emotions that you look forward to feeling from this success, from doing this positive thing that you want to do. And just kind of encapsulate all that into that moment and just feel it. Not to get, because I'm kind of getting into a little bit of my training, but a lot of this is just mind body association, and then it's going to be put in place. It's The mind is just a complex thing, and again, we could get, well, I get into a whole workshop about the mind and what it is capable of. But for this episode, just doing small little things to adjust how we think and how we see and how we feel goes all to the heart center of the body. And that, quite frankly, is the organ, is the heart. Um, Many people think that it's the brain, but it's actually the heart that sort of emits that energy to the brain and to the body. So you get that kind of like into your heart center of feeling that success and seeing that success. And that energy from there wells up where you get anxious and you want to get out of the chair called stuck, and you want to learn more and you're anxious, and you start creatively seeing the world where you're finding time to learn that new task, to exercise that new um, creative endeavor that you want to get into. You will start seeing time in your calendar and in your daily schedule to apply to that. So again, see yourself and feel yourself, being in that already state, already being there. And then, like I said, you want to kind of anchor that, put that into your heart. One of the things I also did was I would put little post-its around with some positive affirmations while I'm brushing my teeth. Even if I'm not speaking it, I'm still seeing it and I'm reading it, and my mind is absorbing it. So some of those positive things that come to you, even when you're sitting still, reminding you that you can do it, when you kind of come out of that state of quietness, write those things down. Sketch it on a post-it, put it on the fridge, any place around your house where you're going to spend a couple seconds repetitively each day. Maybe on the kitchen cupboard while you're making your lunch, and that healthy option instead of the machine or eating out with someone. Again, yet another episode. Nonetheless, where you're brushing your teeth in the bathroom. Maybe you have a mirror in your bedroom where you're getting dressed and you're in front of every day. Put multiple notes of, copies of every one of them, so you're continuously seeing these positive affirmations and reading them. Maybe reading them with your mind in the bathroom, getting dressed in the bedroom, you're now able to verbally speak. You're in the kitchen making your lunch, you can speak it again. You want to do this about 3 to 4 times in the morning while you're getting ready, and about 3 or 4 times at the end of the day as you're decompressing, brushing your teeth, getting undressed, maybe doing the dishes. All of this is just kind of reinforcing. And once you have exercised all of this and it becomes habit, which it will, and you'll find yourself just brushing your teeth and you'll hear that recording in your mind. You'll hear yourself saying it. You're like, where'd that come from? Because you have repeatedly done something and now your mind knows it needs to continue. So, huge, powerful thing for those two steps is certainly sit down, absorb, feel, as well as verbally reinforce yourself and your mind and your heart what it is that you want, what you seek to accomplish, and that you are strong and able to do that. You can go to my website and see some of the post-its that I've placed up there of those positive affirmations that I've used throughout the years. It should be in the extra tools tab. Some of them I even post up on social media on the Instagram that they're beneficial. And so I'm happy to share them with everyone to enjoy and to utilize. And also feel free to adjust them as need be. Don't necessarily have to be word for word, but you will certainly get some ideas and get the gist of each one of those positive thoughts. Now that you've got yourself positively built up, right? And you're in that just high energy state, the next thing you want to do is create that growth environment. And how can we do that? One of the ways to create a growth environment is surround yourself with supportive people, mentors, if uh, if need be, preferably friends, people that you trust, people that are close to you. Let them know what you're doing, or at least that you're in a positive mind space. And it may even be that your friends are getting positive and they're asking you to be a little bit more positive. So the drive comes from them and not necessarily from you. But nonetheless, you want to have that positive environment around you. You kind of want to have people pepping you up. Now, I will throw a little caveat here is that you don't always want to kind of share your big idea, what it is you're doing. And I'm not saying that it has to be this, you know, uh, sort of a secret uh, kind of a thing, but you could just share that, hey, I'm working on a new business, I'm working on something big, and I'm kind of getting it together, and just kind of leave it at that. A lot of times, you may find, and this is with even longtime friends, but sometimes even your short-term friends, people maybe you have just met. And if you start sharing your idea and this goal and something that you want to do, you may start to discover that certain friends maybe don't want you to do that. Maybe feel a little intimidated by you doing something. And it quite frankly isn't their fault because it's just human nature. But they're already ruminating in their mind, uh-oh, you become successful, you might not be my friend. You start to get busy with a business and we're not going to have time for our regular events. And so they're going to start creating thoughts on their behalf from them. Their energy is going to be a little negative. And they're not going to tell you. It's just like I said, it's kind of human nature. And they don't even realize that they're doing it again because it's kind of a different cause or reason as to why. It's not that they don't want you to succeed. It's just that they don't want to lose their friend. They don't want to lose the coffee time. They don't want to lose the cherishing events that they have with you. So that being said, kind of keep it on the down low unless you feel that you've got that security of your friend and of your mentor that you say, hey, I'm kind of getting into this and would love your support. Not necessarily up front because I appreciate our friendship and the coffee engagements that we have or that we go do these events. And I want to keep doing those, but I also know I want to improve myself. That could kind of connect them to your energy of positivity and be like, yeah, I want you to succeed. And I like that you still want to have our coffee dates, right? So a little bit of that is kind of the approach, but certainly be cautious because you don't want to necessarily let out your big ideas of success and how you want to improve in your life, only to find out that even though you do kind of keep the coffee thing going, that they're still maybe a little jealous or envious that you're succeeding and maybe they're not. So just again that word of caution that as you're sharing with individuals and seeking their support, make sure that A, it's the support that you truly want from them, and also maybe kind of size them up to understand that they will be there for you through thick and thin. And I'm sure you already know who those individuals are. So I'm not sharing with you anything that you already don't know, but certainly, like I said, you want to make sure that not only are you creating positive energy and that small circle around you is creating positive energy, this is kind of what's going to get the mass in motion and stirred up. You know, it's a little bit like a tornado. Although devastating and cause much tragedy in certain areas of the US here that we're familiar with, but it really is just a few masses of weather that collide, that create that tornado, that create such a force of violent wind and just the velocity of circulatory energy. That's what this is. So once you get kind of that multiple storms that collide and all that energy going, and you kind of start getting it into a motion, you kind of help, but not become a part of it, whether you want to or not. And or much like a tornado, you're going to kind of get picked up and sort of thrown out. So again, when you're sharing with individuals, size them up and make sure they're aligned with you, and then kind of reassure them that they're not going to get thrown out, but that they may get drawn in, and hope that they appreciate that aspect of your friendship. Another thing you also want to do is adopt a learner's mindset, right? Because as mentioned earlier, each time we kind of don't succeed, that is a lesson. And so, you know, we need to write down and kind of keep a management of those lessons, thus we forget. I mean, some we don't forget, but others, even the little ones, you certainly want to kind of sketch them down and be like, hey, this is what I learned today. This is what what I understood today from something. This was an aha moment, and kind of just like randomly sketch those on a piece of paper. Um, Not only because what we write, we invite, we also understand, and we visually see it, and the eye hand coordination of writing, reading it again circulates through the heart and through the mind, and it helps us to not forget. And those lessons are what's going to start coming together as we see ourselves in that quiet state of being in our future. And you may think of those things that you've written down, and that's okay. Yeah. Quite frankly, if there's going to be a disruption during your quiet, meditative, seeing yourself in the future state, is maybe you start thinking about that affirmation that you've read on your bathroom mirror. That means it's getting ingrained, right? That means that it's there. That's kind of that is a positive affirmation that your affirmation is being in place. And so, and it's also a way to kind of track your progress. One of the things I like to do is on for instance, an Excel spreadsheet is I like to keep track of the date, and then I just put a little note that hey, I did this, or hey, I did that. and kind of just to put things a little bit in a timeline and that I can see. If you're more into journaling, feel free to journal. Actually getting ahead of myself again, but yeah, feel free to journal. And, I always mark a little asterisk on the top of my page when I get to the bottom and I'm like, wow, this is good stuff. This is pretty profound. I want to remember this. That way, when I'm thumbing through the journal, I see that asterisk and I know, oh, kind of tell myself that this was a pivotal point. This was an aha moment. So when I kind of look back through them and I go, oh, yeah, here was that pivotal moment, right? So again, keeping track of, yeah, what we're learning and how we're learning, for sure, as well as stay curious, right? To always be kind of understanding what it is that we're doing, right, for our craft. Like, for instance, with real estate, I got to a point where I didn't want to watch TV. I watched videos and I learned from others that were doing it. If there was someone who had one of my mentors by the name of David Knox, and I'm dating myself, but it was 12 VHS cassettes that, that came in a package. And I forget, I think it was like a VHS a month originally. And then once everything was together, he then kind of marketed the 12 tapes. Anyway, having the 12 tapes that I purchased, and again, dating myself to a bygone error, that I would watch them over and over. And I start at one and I go to 12. And I wrote down on my legal pad and I went to one and went to 12 and went to one and just kept going through. And a couple of, even throughout going through the 1 through 12 video series of the different events that you could encounter in your career, I also filled up a legal pad of just, great, great point, great. I was just always curious, always understanding. And quite frankly, I started learning at that time that seeing something a second, third, fourth time, I was picking up different things than the first time. Again, whole nother workshop that I do as far as what the mind perceives and how it processes each one of the things that we're absorbing on the daily, that I really embodied the person I was seeing on the video, which was David. I was becoming David. And I found myself, quite frankly, laughing. A little inside scoop for you here on the Ask Adam live episode was a couple of times I would bite my lip because I found myself laughing as I sat at the kitchen table at someone's house, the conference table at my office, at my desk, sometimes even on the phone, where I was emulating David. If we got into negotiations and I just started, hitting off all of these uh, negotiation strategies or objection situations where somebody didn't like this, it was like where to pivot. And already knowing how to pivot and where to go, quite frankly, made the job a little easier and quite playful, as a matter of fact, because I already knew where to go. I already kind of had that roadmap. I already strategized, hey, if I can't go this way, I'm going to go that way. Kind of, we've gotten a little lax with like Google Maps, where we just look at the map and follow the blue line. But, in the day with paper maps, I always strategized. Again, going to my uh, truck driving career, was I always strategized. Hey, if the weather starts to get bad, can I pivot and go south and get away from it? Uh, is this a toll road? Is there another road besides the toll road? Is it an easier route to take this way than another way? And I'll tell you, once you get into some of the rural U.S. Byways and highways, you can get off the interstate and actually make pretty good time on some of those country-esque roads. In fact, they're wonderfully maintained in many states, and nobody's using them. So again, always kind of like strategize and figure out kind of those different things that you can do. And as I always say, always seek knowledge, is try to do something a little different, you know. Whereas when you do have some downtime, maybe you're sitting in the car, listen to a podcast that is relevant. Well, hopefully you're not skipping this podcast, but to do so, but listen to something that's relevant. You know, maybe there's two people that are talking or a person sharing about that particular field that you're working in. So you're learning from their experience. It's gotten so much more advanced and actually quite easy to find. I remember, gosh, it was almost a year before I found David and his information to be helpful, just because we didn't really have the internet. It was just kind of like word of mouth, as well as my other mentor that I learned from. It was kind of word of mouth from him as well, that I learned about his practices and attended his classes and sessions to learn more about how to handle different aspects of real estate. So always seek knowledge. When you're in the car, listen to a podcast, listen to a story. Audible is a great resource for picking up books on learning about strategies in any given field that you're looking for. You know, somebody has already taken that path. Learn from them. Learn. I mean, that's kind of what skips the learning curve. It's Grant Cardone always talks about, you know, the 10x factor, right? Well, the 10x factor is really just following somebody who's already followed that path and learning from what they've learned, and they're sharing with you. Now you have that knowledge, and it's probably taken them 10, 20 years to accumulate and acquire all that, as well as their success rate. And you've almost surpassed that, which I think is why when we look around and we see successful people and we see many times how they've accelerated, is because our learning curve is really tightened up from the way it used to be, for sure, for sure. So that being said, you know, just always be gaining some knowledge. That can be in the car, that can be while you're making the lunch, while you're brushing your teeth. I mean, with smartphones, if you got that thing always on and you have it in your hand, why not listen to something that you're going to learn from and not necessarily a series of silly videos? Not to say it's wrong. There's certainly a time to relax and enjoy some funny in life, but if you really want to be successful, you kind of have to change the dial, if you will, on your phone and absorb something else. So, you know, that is going to be kind of a way to break those old patterns as well. And it's not going to be tough, or it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be rewarding. And you'll find that as you're gaining knowledge and seeing yourself doing it, and you're having these affirmation sessions while you're brushing your teeth and getting dressed and touch, and pretty soon all of this stuff starts to kind of snowball, where you embody what it is that you once thought and sought after and that you became. And this is what makes that wonderful you bloom and blossom and become what you truly were created to be. So it's actually a quite magical experience. And again, as I mentioned earlier, I've done it several times. So I feel blessed to be able to share with you this information and help allow you to maybe 10x your learning curve, as spoken by Grant Cardone. So here's some practical exercises that you can do, which is, as I mentioned earlier, the daily journal. And like I said, always right, what we write, we invite. So, you know, if you encounter kind of that limiting belief, write it down. And then write down an empowering belief. If you're more of a writer, then sketch down, you know, several sentences of, you know, the limiting beliefs that you have, and then spend the other half of that page acknowledging more of the empowering beliefs that you can think of to counterbalance that. because you don't just want to write a page of negative things. I know I mentioned earlier, and that's a whole nother exercise, but whatever is stated as negative, you immediately need to replace it with something positive. And again, that goes into my other workshop where you have that belief, you immediately change that thought process, you congratulate yourself for doing so, and then you celebrate that you are magnificent and that you can do this. So you don't want those negative thoughts and beliefs to sort of hang around too long and seed and become something, because they don't become pretty flowers. I can tell you that for sure. But you want the pretty flowers of empowerment to seed. That's what you want to put in place. So again, limiting beliefs, any of the toxic 10, as soon as you're thinking about it, counterbalance it with something positive and move on. And eventually you will not have those thoughts, or at least not have them as often. And it will happen actually much quicker that you combat them. Again, just a habitual thing that once it's in place, it's pretty much unstoppable, just like you. Again, as mentioned earlier, some affirmation cards. Maybe you could even put some of those 3x5 like recipe cards. I think they call them index cards. Put some in your purse. Laminate them if you like. Get kind of fancy. Um, Put some sparkles and sayings and whatnot on there if you're not too tech friendly to have it on your phone. But again, you don't necessarily want this associated with your phone. This may be a great time when you don't have Wi-Fi, that in your backpack, briefcase, purse, attache, whatever it is that you might kind of tote around with you, have some of these index cards with some positive statements that are written out, that when you do have a moment to just kind of thumb through them and read each one of them. I remember having a series of them myself that yeah, it really it got me through, especially in a specific state that I was in. It was like every time I woke up and got ready to do my remote work, that yeah, I kind of thumbed through those. And then when I had a couple of episodes through the day where things weren't going so good, it was right back to the cards. I always kept them top of my desk because remember back in the day we were doing lots of remote work. That's pretty much where we all lived, was our desk. And again, as mentioned, an accountability partner. Certainly you're going to have your friends and a mentor that's kind of helping you along, but it also doesn't hurt to have an accountability partner. As I mentioned before, you always want to have a running buddy, just somebody who's always there, not somebody you have to run harder to catch up to, or someone that you have to stop and wait for them to catch up. You want a running buddy, someone who's kind of parallel with you. Maybe they're successful in another field of business, but their success is uh, kind of connects with your success. Even though you're doing something completely different, it's sort of that conjoined success that can also create that energy, as mentioned earlier, that whirlwind, if you will. I have a mastermind group that we meet once a week, and we're all doing different things, and we share our wins and our what we've learned and what we're looking forward to doing. But we don't. It's in a manner where we're all kind of parallel to some degree. So we're not waiting for the other one to catch up to have that conversation. My business doesn't stop because I need to connect with my mastermind. My I don't have to work harder at my business to connect with my mastermind. They're just there. And I always recommend to have that on some regular kind of a schedule. If it starts floating around the calendar a little too much, it can be difficult and get lost. So pick a day, pick a time, and stick with it. And always connect with them on the regular basis. I know they'll grow and they'll shrink, and you may gain a couple more that maybe you invite somebody who, like I said, who's in another field, somebody who you've met that's successful. You said, hey, come come be part of our mastermind. Would love for you to participate. You will find this extraordinarily beneficial. Just to understand that sometimes people are going through the same thing we are, and other times you're succeeding while they're not. And that's kind of where it falls into, they gave you something earlier. Maybe this is the week you give them some encouragement to let them know that, hey, your little win is something that they can participate in too, and they can have their win. That's a good bit of what that mastermind group is, as well as strategies of how to kind of get back in focus, or how to do things a little bit more effectively. Maybe they learned a new tool. I'm always learning different things of how they're implementing in their business, and I can adapt and change that and be creative to make it work in my business. So again, create this, have an accountability partner, and if that even means having a mastermind group, all the better, because many minds think alike, and it's huge support. Even if you've had a really tough week, even if even sometimes the whole group has had a tough week, but we all pat ourselves on the back and we all congratulate ourselves that we showed up to the meeting, even though we felt defeated, and we work, that particular episode of our meeting is working on how to be better, how to do something better, how to implement something different. So it's multiple learnings all in one. And I mean, you could even call that a 10x option, as spoken by Grant Cardone. So here we go. Let's embrace the new you. We're still just in the beginning of this new year, not to date this episode. I think this can happen at any time. And so shift in self identity. Overcoming your limiting beliefs isn't about just achieving your external goals, but it's also working on your heart center and reassuring and strengthening your heart that you can do what it is that you seek to do. And by having that inner strength, is really what makes you unstoppable. No matter what is around you, you your energy comes from within. And that is what creates that circulatory energy that we spoke about earlier. And also the other thing is the positivity that we spoke earlier. Um, just keep combating those negative thoughts, because quite frankly, they're never going to end. And you want to sort of squash them while they're small. One of my other mentors says, "Kill the monster while it's a baby," and that's absolutely what you want to do. Because, quite frankly, and they'll all tell you, everyone will tell you, the negative thoughts that you combat today, they and you fill them with positive thoughts. Somehow, they do create a small void that another negative thought's going to find its way in there. It's going to be different, but it's still a not positive or empowering thought that needs to be combated. And you'll find that as you grow in your business, as you're learning more in your business, and you kind of, and it usually seems like when you kind of have everything together and you're like, man, I got this, I'm rocking it. And then you're like, wait, where did that come from? What? No, I can do it. Well, you already defeated that long before, right? As we discussed, and through all of your exercises. And it could be maybe that you lacked in your exercises, as mentioned earlier, or just that, again, it's a new thought. Because you're growing, now it's a new thing. Like you're doing whatever it is in your business, and now you're leveling up and you're doing something slightly different. Now all of a sudden that negative thought's going to come in. Oh, you're doing different. You can't do this. You can do the same as you did before, and that's okay. Again, negative thought. You combated it before when you started this new thing, but now you're at level 2, level 3, level 5, and the same thought's going to come in. Oh, you were better at 4. Don't try 5. Well, you haven't got to 5 yet, so how do you know if you can't do it? So again, get those things while they're small, and just again, if it's a new thing, like I said, you might change your affirmations, put them on those little post-its because you're going to adapt and evolve. And pretty soon, what you tackled one day, there's a new concern the next day. So write those affirmations down, positive thoughts, however you've pivoted to change that. And yeah, do that for sure. Mastering your mindset and overcoming limiting beliefs does lay the foundation for greater success, health, and happiness by recognizing the subconscious scripts that we play each day, challenging their validity, and cultivating supportive environment. You unlock a pathway to your highest potential. Give yourself the permission to grow beyond your perceived limits. Your future self will thank you. I want to take this moment to thank you for being a part of this episode. Hopefully, that you've learned something, absorbed something, and even found something to go above and beyond that you might even share with someone else. I always encourage that if someone doesn't have the ability to necessarily tune into these episodes, that maybe you could convey what you've learned and share that with someone else in your own words, and that they might learn something and improve and help their life. Again, that's what these episodes are all about, is creating a better life for everyone. I don't think it's exclusive to certain people, and you too, as well as your friends, family, and people should be able to enjoy a most happy, healthy, and successful life. Click like or subscribe. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, and on YouTube. We also started publishing on Spotify as well. So if you like what you heard and don't have time to share with a friend, certainly send them a link and allow them to absorb this wonderful information. If maybe some enlightenment or the light bulb has gone off, that you said, "Oh, hey, a workshop. Oh, hey, you go deeper into this," I would certainly be interested in that. I would love to share that with you, where we do dive deep into understanding a little bit more of the heart and mind connection, as well as even the simplicity of how to combat that that monster while it's a baby, how we can trigger, or how we can change those negative thoughts when we do get those mild inklings of negative thoughts, how we can immediately change that. That's something you struggle with. We can certainly help you out with that as well. Again, my name is Adam, and this has been Ask Adam Live. Remember, aligned skills and knowledge is going to make you the best you. Now let's go out together and make it a great day.